Warm greetings, Code Monkeys, and welcome back to CodedLockFilms. Well, it's been far too long since we've had one of these, so let's dive into another episode of Disney Direct DVDs.
Disney, oh Disney, you shaped most of my childhood, yes you mean a lot to me.
First of all, let me offer my apologies to Spartanite67 for how long this particular video took to make. For those of you who don't remember, Spartanite67 was the winner of the 2015 Trailer Challenge, and as such was allowed to pick from a list of 3 movies to be the subject of the next Disney Direct DVD review. Since 101 Dalmatians was his favorite Disney movie as a kid, he chose 101 Dalmatians 2, Patch's London Adventure, to see how they messed it up. And mess it up they did, of course, but more on that in a minute. First, as we so often do, let us touch on the original. You know, it's long been a belief of mine that the mark of a good piece of children's entertainment is one that, when you experience it again as an adult, you are not only reminded why you liked it when you were younger, but you in fact gain a deeper appreciation for it. And I was honestly surprised by how much I enjoyed rediscovering 101 Dalmatians. I certainly enjoyed it when I was a kid, but it was never exactly one of my favorites, but it's honestly very well put together. A very simple but well-told story about 2 parents who embark on a journey to rescue their kidnapped children. It's fairly basic, sure, but most animated movies were at the time. And not only are Pongo and Purdy executed quite well, but this movie is kind of a masterclass in how to get side characters right. This movie has a lot of minor characters in it, and pretty much all of them are done extraordinarily well. The visual design of said characters is top-notch, for one thing. Take one look at pretty much any character in this movie, and you can pretty instantly discern their personality based on what they look like, even when they haven't yet said a single word. And pretty much all of them are endearing and likable, particularly the Colonel and Sergeant Tibbs, which probably explains why we spend so much time with them. But most people, I think, would agree that the area in which this movie makes its biggest impression is that of the villains. Not only does this movie feature Horace and Jasper, who I think are 2 of Disney's very best bad guy henchmen, more on that later, but it also of course has Cruella de Vil, who is the first Disney villain I actually remember having nightmares about as a child. And what makes her so damn terrifying in particular is that she's actually pretty believable. I mean, you might be scared of someone like Maleficent or Ursula, but in the back of your mind you can take comfort in the knowledge that evil sorceresses, well, aren't real. But old money socialite harpies? Animal abusers? Yeah. Those people exist. Probably not to the extent shown here, but still. The villains really are the thing that makes this movie stand out as a classic for me. And if it seems like I'm going on and on about the original a bit more than I usually do, please think nothing of it. Because I am definitely not stalling for time due to the fact that this particular sequel is mostly just really boring and hard to make a funny video out of. Nope. Not stalling for time at all. So sit and stay as we take a look at 101 Dalmatians 2, Patch's London Adventure. Still not stalling.
Code Monkey, get up, get coffee. Code Monkey, go to job. Code Monkey, have boring meeting with boring manager Rob. Rob say Code Monkey very diligent, but his output stink. His code not functional or elegant. What do Code Monkey think? Code Monkey think maybe manager wanna write goddamn login page himself. Code Monkey not say it out loud. Code Monkey not crazy, just proud. Code Monkey like Fritos. Code Monkey like Tab and Mountain Dew. Code Monkey very simple man with big warm fuzzy secret heart. Code Monkey like you. Code Monkey like you.
We begin on an intro which attempts to recreate the sort of jazzy, stylistic animated dots thing that the original did. It more or less fails, but in fairness to this movie, the original set a pretty high standard for music production that is really hard to match on such a crap budget. Also, literally none of the voice actors are the same, but given the fact that the 2 movies were made more than 4 decades apart, I can't really fault them for that either. Our story proper begins with the whole family making the final preparations to move to the Dalmatian plantation, and oh god, we're singing right away, aren't we?
Spots! I'm seeing spots. Everywhere I'm seeing lots of those tiny little dots. Yes, it's true. They're on the beds and the cots, in the pans and the pots, and they've left little spots in the loo.
Okay, so yeah, this song sucks. Of course it does, what do you expect? But even on a conceptual level, this is very much a thing that should not exist, because 101 Dalmatians is not a musical.
We'll have a Dalmatian
Spots,
plantation,
spots, spots.
and
Everywhere on the beds and the cots.
True, Roger does sing a couple of songs in the original, but he's not singing because they're in a musical, he's singing because he's a goddamn musician. The other characters do not take part in the songs because the songs are not metaphorical expressions of emotional states as they are in other musicals. They're literal songs within the universe that the movie's set up because, you know what? Fuck it. The song sucks. Moving on. Pretty much everyone is excited about the move to the Dalmatian plantation except for one. Patch, who doesn't quite fit in with the others. And I guess Patch is as good a pick as any. I mean, for one thing, he's the only one of the puppies who's visually distinct from any of the others, aside from Rolly. And given that his only established personality traits are likes Thunderbolt TV show and thinks he's tougher than he is, there's a lot of places that you could go with him in terms of character. Granted, most of the places they go with his character are generic and boring ones, but still, decent enough starting point.
Ah, Thunderbolt, you're one of a kind. Wow, one of a kind.
Maybe one day I can be a special snowflake too. Okay, in all seriousness, I get what they're going for here, and conceptually speaking, it's really not a bad idea. I am an only child myself, so growing up, I never really identified with the whole this kid feels like he or she matters less than his or her siblings thing. But that kind of narrative is really common amongst children's entertainment, and for good reason. The media that we consume informs the people that we become, especially the media that we consume as children. And for kids who did have to deal with feeling like their parents paid more attention to their siblings than them, this type of character is probably a lot more engaging. That said, I still don't feel like Patch is a particularly adept execution of that type of character, but I'll get into that a little bit more as we go on. So yeah, Patch finds out from the TV that his hero Thunderbolt is going to be in London tomorrow, and not only that, there's a contest to win a guest appearance on the show. Patch begs his parents to let him stay for one extra day, but given that they're, you know, dogs and everything, they can't exactly put the move on hold, and they're pretty eager to get going anyway.
Oh, Purdy. The farm will be such a wonderful place to raise our puppies.
And best of all, we'll be miles away from that evil, ugly monster, Cruella de Vil. Now please let me in.
Oh god, Cruella, what did they do to you?
You know very well that the terms of your probation don't allow me to sell you any more furs.
Probation? How the hell is Cruella on probation? Being on probation implies that for a time she was imprisoned, and how exactly is that possible when the first movie explicitly tells us that the police had no evidence against her?
Roger, I admit she's eccentric, but she's not a thief.
Well, she's still #1 suspect in my book.
Of course, she's been investigated by Scotland Yard. What more do you want?
It's not like the fucking dogs could have given testimony. Okay, maybe Horace and Jasper ratted her out or something after they got caught. I mean, the police definitely had their descriptions, and it seems pretty clear that they were career criminals. Although I think rich-ass Cruella could probably afford a good enough lawyer to defend herself against the testimony of these guys. Whatever. Point is, I really shouldn't have to jump through that many hoops to figure out some shit that the movie doesn't bother to explain. But if we're gonna bring the legal system into this, I gotta say, Cruella has definite grounds for a defamation lawsuit against Roger, given that he smeared her name in a song that the first movie tells us got very popular. And yes, defamation lawsuits did exist in England in the 1960s. I know this because I researched it. I researched 1960s era English defamation law for the purposes of a review of 102 Dalmatians. What the fuck am I doing with my life? Oh Jesus, what is this stupid cartoony nonsense? Actually, I should probably clarify that statement because this has been a point of contention in a lot of my other reviews. Oftentimes when I complain about the so-called realism of a particular moment in one of these direct-to-video Disney sequels, I will get a rebuttal that is somewhere along the lines of, dude, it's a cartoon. But here's the thing. No. It's not. Obviously, this is an animated movie, but just because something is animated doesn't mean it's a cartoon. Example. Let's say you're watching The Prince of Egypt, and you're at that scene where Moses drops the bag of wine onto the high priests. Now imagine that same scene, but instead of a bag of wine, it's a huge anvil. That'd be pretty fucking distracting, wouldn't it? My point is that not everything that's animated functions on cartoon logic. Cartoons are a very specific type of animation. The world of 101 Dalmatians is certainly a heightened reality, and it has its slapstick moments, but it is ultimately pretty grounded in real-world physics and logic. In the world set up in the first movie, Cruella's idiosyncrasies are not framed as goofy cartoon obsessions, they are framed as genuine madness. In the world set up in the first movie, you can't put a car back together when this happens to it. Do you get what I'm talking about when I call bullshit on stuff like this in these sequels? Am I making myself clear here? Anyway, as Cruella is moping her way down the street, she encounters this art gallery with a painting of a spot, which, okay, I guess spots are her obsession now, even though you just told us it was fur.
Tell me, what do you see?
Everything. Darkness and light, form and content.
And what else?
Chaos and order, joy and pain.
Oh god, this whole art lover thing. I'm sorry, but this Cruella is way too fucking wacky. The way she's drawn with these weird, soft lines really diminishes her menace, for one thing. For another, the way she's acting is just... Cruella de Vil is supposed to be intimidating, confident, overbearing, and most importantly, scary as hell. This Cruella is less that and more... well...
Grandma, it's me, Anastasia.
Anyway, back at the house, Patch is continuing on his little crisis of self.
I can't sleep.
98.
I've been thinking.
98.
Do you think I'm one of a kind, or just one of 101?
101. That's it. 101.
He's clearly asleep and not comprehending what you're saying. Idiot. Predictably enough, Patch gets left behind when the moving truck leaves, and he takes the opportunity to go to the special event to see Thunderbolt.
And here's his sidekick extraordinaire, the ever-trusty Little Lightning!
The Corgi's the bad guy. Calling it right now. Okay, obviously you guys know that I've seen the movie before. I'm not actually sitting here right now watching it for the first time. But I promise you, when Maddie and I first sat down to watch this thing all the way through, the moment they brought out a superfluous sidekick character for Thunderbolt, I immediately paused the movie, turned to Maddie, and said, that Corgi is going to be a bad guy. Because why would you even introduce the guy if you weren't going to do the whole the sidekick turns to the dark side thing? I'm not saying there aren't ways to make that interesting. Both Evil Bob from the Dresden Files and Bucky Barnes from the Captain America series are great examples, but God, they don't make it interesting here. The whole deal is that Lightning tricks Thunderbolt into thinking that the writers of the show are going to kill off Thunderbolt's character and replace him with a younger dog. And that's what the auditions are really about. And I'm sorry, but this guy is just not menacing. They're going for a sort of Ursula type thing, where the villain takes advantage of the hero's insecurities and naivete, but you don't really get the impression that Lightning is particularly clever, more so that Thunderbolt is just an incompetent moron.
Ticks! I hate ticks! They suck all the blood out of you, do you hear me? They suck all the blood out of you!
And pro tip, if you want your villain to come off as clever and menacing, maybe Jason Alexander isn't the guy you want to hire to voice him.
So please, a little respect. For I am Costanza, Lord of the Idiots.
Lightning convinces Thunderbolt to go out into London and perform some real-life heroics to prove he's still got what it takes,
figuring that Thunderbolt will get himself either lost or killed in the process. But Thunderbolt's thing is that he has no idea what to do without a script. But fortunately, he meets up with Patch, who knows every episode by heart, and comes up with solutions to various problems based on what Thunderbolt did in whatever episode is appropriate. Thunderbolt decides to trick Patch into following him around and telling him what to do under the guise of testing Patch to see if he is worthy of being Thunderbolt's sidekick. And what follows is, well, a bunch of hijinks. And most of it's just filler that's not terribly worth dwelling on. About the only thing that happens of any particular importance to the plot is that at some point Patch and Thunderbolt end up in the paper, which accomplishes two things. First, it alerts Cruella to where all of the Dalmatians have moved because she sees the new address on Patch's collar tag. Apparently London's newspapers are printed in extremely high definition. And second, it allows the family to realize that Patch is still in London, because unlike the first movie, Pongo and Purdy are terrible and inattentive parent figures. Look, if it was any of their other puppies, I might understand losing track of one of them. Maybe. But as I previously stated, Patch is one of only two that is visually distinct from the others. They should have noticed he was missing before the damn truck even pulled away. But back in London, Cruella is getting the old band back together, as it were.
It's not fair, Horace, me lad. It's just not fair. How come she gets off with probation and a restraining order?
While we's left rotting away in here.
Off your bums, lads. Sprung for your bail, somebody has.
If they've been convicted and sentenced to prison time, you can't spring for their bail. That's not how jail works.
Jasper, Horace, it's time to finish the job.
You are openly talking about completing an unfinished crime in front of a prison guard. How the fuck are you allowed to walk out of this building?
Well, if she wants us to work for her this time, we won't be made fools of.
You look just like Mum.
Shut up, you.
Oh god, is there no dignity left in any of these villains anymore? See, here's what made Horace and Jasper so brilliant as henchmen. They were actually capable of getting things done. Yes, there was a bit of slapstick to them here and there, particularly in the case of Horace, but it was never the kind of slapstick that made them hard to take seriously. They were clearly career criminals, and pretty good at it for the most part. Cruella wouldn't have hired them otherwise. They demonstrate their competence very clearly when stealing the puppies, and also show real situational awareness when, after the robbery of the puppies makes the papers, they try to get out of the job in order to keep a low profile. And Jasper in particular was genuinely menacing. He was mean, nasty, and very clearly an extremely dangerous man. An extremely dangerous man who would not be caught dead doing this kind of stupid Looney Tunes bullcrap. So they steal a Canine Crunchies truck, take it to the plantation, and use the jingle to lure the puppies into the... Wait. Why the fuck does a dog food delivery truck have a fucking jingle like it's an ice cream truck? Is this the Canine Crunchies business model? Drive around neighborhoods waiting for hungry dogs to run up with pound sterling banknotes clutched in their mouths? And of course the plan works, at least until Nanny comes out with a frying pan, which Horace and Jasper have no answer for, despite previously being able to handle themselves just fine against one old woman, almost like they were professional criminals or something. But they hadn't counted on her secret weapon. Hijinks! I hate hijinks! Eventually, they get the drop on her and bring the puppies back to the hideout. And what's the plan this time?
No, darling. I don't want you to make art of the puppies. I want you to make art with the puppies. Use their coats as canvases. Create a masterpiece in a new medium. Together, you and I will stun the art world with our ruthless originality.
I may be eccentric, but I am not
a sicko!
Okay, that line was funny. You got me. But news of what's been happening eventually reaches the ears of Patch and Thunderbolt through the Twilight Bark.
Sounds like a kidnapping. Being held in a warehouse. A devil woman! 101 Dalmatians.
No. 98 Dalmatians. There are 101 total. You see, Patch is with Thunderbolt, and Pongo and Purdy are in the car on their way to London. And that would mean that there are 98 Dalmatians in the crates. Scriptwriters, Learn to fucking count. Unfortunately, Lightning also hears what's happening via the means of the Twilight Bark.
What if Blunderbolt gets lucky and succeeds? George is getting upset!
And once he's succeeded in sabotaging the rescue mission, we have our tedious liar revealed thing where Lightning tells Patch that Thunderbolt was just an actor all along, yada yada, loss of faith, seen this a million times. And after some moping, Lucky reminds Patch of a time when Thunderbolt escaped from a similar cage, enabling them to escape in the same way. Hey genius, there are open slats on the sides of those crates that are clearly wide enough for you to squeeze through. Maybe you could have used those? Oh, but then we wouldn't have our contrived Patch's knowledge of heroic deeds makes him special moment. How silly of me. And when Thunderbolt decides to just stay in the crate because he's feeling guilty and worthless, Patch just frowns at him and walks away. What a guy.
That little kid looked up to me and I failed him. I abdicated my duties.
Look, I understand what they're going for with Patch. I really, really do, but he's just not interesting. His personality begins and ends with generic little kid, middle child subtype. And yes, he's got encyclopedic knowledge of a TV show, but that's just something he knows, not who he is. At no point does he apply his knowledge in creative ways, he's just repeating what he's already seen somebody else do. It doesn't really inform his personality to any significant degree. And the moment he's offered the chance to show compassion to somebody who's wronged him, like, you know, a hero might do, he just brushes it off. I do not like Patch. I am excruciatingly bored by Patch. Your main character sucks, movie. You fail. They all manage to escape by, using a canvas as a trampoline to bounce themselves up out of the skylight. But then... the cartoon logic here is just the worst. Puppy number 98 bounces up, and then, just before Patch jumps, after a delay of about 2 seconds, if that, Cruella, Jasper, and Horace have snuck up on Patch, removed the canvas, got into position, and gotten ready to catch Patch, all without making a single sound. And then they don't even catch him, because reasons. And so, after more fucking hijinks, Patch escapes and the puppies make their getaway by stealing a double-decker bus and then leading Cruella, Jasper, and Horace on a high-speed chase through London, plowing through the set of the new Thunderbolt episode, and having a battle with Cruella while she surfs on top of the car behind the bus. You know, I've seen these Disney sequels do some pretty stupid shit. But this isn't so much jumping the shark as it is jumping the entire fucking aquarium. And you know what? I'm not even mad. No, I'm not kidding. Up until now, this has been the most boring, uninvolving Disney sequel I've seen so far. Except for Cinderella 2. So you know what? Go for it. Get stupid. Who cares? At least stupid is interesting. Eventually the puppies get cornered, but of course Thunderbolt shows up to redeem himself, distracting the bad guys long enough for the puppies to get out of the bus, which Patch then throws into reverse, sending it after the villains, who, for some reason, even after they leave the alley, don't just step to the side and let it pass, preferring instead to jump straight into the river. And then the police show up to sort everything out. Well, I say the police show up, I should say fucking everybody shows up.
There they are! Those are the ones!
She made us do it!
Spots? I do see spots, you know. They're everywhere!
Yeah, that was goofy, but if I'm being honest, a mental institution is probably where she belongs. And Roger, Anita, Pongo, and Purdy also show up by complete coincidence, I might add. Maybe they heard a news report or something, I don't know.
We missed you very much, Patch.
You did?
Of course, son.
No. No, you did not. You demonstrably did not. You didn't even notice he was gone until the newspaper directly told you that he was gone. You are a terrible father.
You should have seen Patch, Mother. It was fantastic. Just like Thunderbolt.
You know, they're right, kid. Me, I'm just an actor. But you are a real, one-of-a-kind wonder dog.
Hey kids, if you feel like you don't matter, like you're just a tiny drop in the bucket, Well, first of all, stop. You're a child. You're too young for existential ennui. But if you insist, well then, all you have to do to be special is take enormous life-threatening risks and act exactly like the people you see on TV. Good luck! And that, Code Monkeys, was 101 Dalmatians 2, Patch's London Adventure. Jesus, tap dancing, Christ juggling slices of toast, this movie is a piece of crap. And not only is it a piece of crap, it is a piece of crap in the most boring way possible. I've got to be honest here, guys, this is probably one of the hardest reviews I've ever had to write, because this movie is just so damned insubstantial. There's just not very much for me to sink my teeth into here. It's not staggeringly wrong-headed the way The Enchanted Christmas was, it's not lazy and unoriginal the way Little Mermaid 2 was, and it's not actively infuriating the way Mulan 2 was. It is 101 Dalmatians by way of the Saturday morning cartoon. This movie feels, in pretty much every way possible, like an episode of a non-existent 101 Dalmatians cartoon which has been stretched out into a full-length feature film. Which I suppose makes some kind of sense, given that these movies were always farmed out to Disney Toon Studios. Listen, the people at Disney Toon Studios were TV people. Their stories feel like episodes of TV shows. Their plots have the stakes of episodes of TV shows. And that's not to say there's anything wrong with TV, but TV and movies are different ways of telling a story. The type of premise that is designed to hold an audience's attention for 22 minutes of screen time will probably not suffice to hold that same audience's attention for 90 minutes. But where the movie really suffers is in the characters. Patch is neither interesting, endearing, nor engaging. Thunderbolt is a guy we've seen a million times. Lightning barely does anything, and everyone else is either an idiot, boring, or a boring idiot. That, coupled with the complete neutering of some of Disney's most menacing villains of all time, means that this movie has pretty much nothing of value to offer anyone over the age of about 10. If you're not a child, it is a waste of your time. It is, in all senses of the word, worthless. For kids, it might scrape a worth sitting through, but to be honest, I've seen this kind of story handled much better many times. If you're looking for this kind of story to show your kids, I don't know, show them the Rugrats. That was a good show for dealing with issues relevant to kids. Yeah, Rugrats. Did you know you can find all 9 seasons online? Yeah, watch that. Not this boring crap. Oh boy, that was an ordeal and a half. You know what? I think that for the next Disney Direct DVD review, we're gonna have to pull ourselves up out of the realm of mediocrity and focus on one of the truly terrible ones. Something that people have been asking about for a while. But what to choose? Oh, what's that? Why, I do believe I hear the bells are ringing. Till next time, Code Monkeys, I will see you later. Warm greetings, Code Monkeys and fellow Vedsy. Nope, not that. I always gotta break that habit after Veds. He decided to take a look at... Happening eventually reaches the ears of Patrick and... Patrick? Oh, that's charming. And not only... I don't know if you can hear that, but meat is being pounded in the kitchen. Not like that. Anyway, as stupid allergies. Oh, I'm attractive. Just before Patch jumps, after about a delay of... Any sign of Scotty? Not a single blip anywhere. It appears he truly doesn't exist anymore. Damn it. I was hoping he was just hidden away somewhere else, but if he's really gone, then I don't know what we're gonna be able to do about it. Well, if he shows up for even a moment, I'll know. Good. We'll see how Creeper's doing in just a second here. Hello? Creeper. Oh, thank God. I was hoping you'd still have reception down there. How are things looking?
Nothing much to report so far.
Alright. Have you been seen by anybody?
Not yet.
Okay, well, keep doing what you're doing, and let me know immediately if anything changes.
10-4. That's a thing people say, right?
Yes, Creeper. That's a thing that people say. Keep yourself safe, alright? I'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.
Well, that's another goose egg.
Don't worry, we're bound to figure out something eventually.
Hey, speaking of figuring things out, did you ever get around to whatever was in that package that you got?
Just a USB drive.
but I'm not ready to plug it in just yet. Still? Hey, there could be any number of traps rigged to it. I've already ruled out the possibility that there's some sort of explosive compound inside it set to detonate whenever it's plugged into anything, but there might still be some sort of virus installed on it. I'll have to set up a completely isolated computer terminal and disable any wireless connections before I try to find out what's on that drive. Minimize any potential risks to our computer systems, you know. You know, normally I'd say you're being your usual paranoid self, but to be honest, an unmarked package with no postage probably merits a bit of extra caution. I don't want you hanging around the house while I do it either. You never know what might happen. You don't want me hanging around the house? Excuse me, but which one of us hasn't left the building since 2011? This place is completely secure. I have no reason to leave. Aside from remembering what the sun looks like from time to time. We have windows. Whatever, man. Keep me posted. 10-4.